Good evening and welcome to the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Tonight is Wednesday, June 25th. Before we begin, could we please all rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Just a couple small business items here. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
In favor?
Aye.
Are there any items anybody would like pulled? No? Okay.
Did we make the one change to move board comments up to,
We can move board can I get a motion to approve moving board comments up till after audience comments?
yes,
Board comments meaning for new business.
yes.
All those in favor? All right, okay. The only other topic that we have would be the items removed from the consent agenda, and that would be donations. And we have several. It would be an Entergy grant. I don't have the most recent. I don't know if there's, so they are, okay. There are a few extras. The Ahold Financial Services, I'm assuming that is a matching grant. The Entergy grant, Furnace Woods Arts and Ed, Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund, the Edward Carter Memorial, the donations for graduation, I'm sorry, I can't. FGL Lashokin, thank you very much, and Blue Mountain Arts and Education. These are primarily for the Entergy grants. I know I have that. In particular, that was,
It's for the Lego program.
thank you very much. The STEM and the
STEM,
Lego League program, that's $32,000. So I would very much like to thank Entergy for that. For the parents who are making the effort on behalf of the PTA, as well as making the effort to put the money in the documentation for the matching grants, I would like to thank them as well. The Edward Carter Memorial, and I imagine the donations for graduation are also to fund and the Jewish Community Federation Endowment Fund for scholarships and for graduation, which thank you very much, because this is a wonderful time of year for the students, and the scholarships and the graduation in and of itself are just tremendous events, so thank you. If I can get a motion to approve the other items actually all items on the donations.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention, please. That would bring us to audience comments. And since we do have a larger audience than usual, I just would like to outline our regular protocol and just some basic rules with regard to comments from the public. I'd like to remind you all that per our practice, we request that all speakers adhere to 3-minute maximum so as to allow everyone a fair opportunity to be heard. If a speaker raises a topic that deals with particular students and/or staff, it is our policy and practice that the board will not respond to such issues with privacy. And we ask that all comments be civil in nature, that no disparaging comments be made with regard to any individuals, whether they are associated with the school district or otherwise, and that you please respect the rights of others. Finally, when called upon, if you would please state your name and address for the record before beginning your comment. Thank you for coming out. We do appreciate everyone's input and as well as your cooperation. So if anybody has anything they would like to say?
Yeah, we have plenty.
Yes, my name is Milo Lipovac. I'd like to defer my time to my wife, Stanika Lipovac, please.
I believe you have the beginning, so I just want to give you the additional. Thank you. Okay.
No, we don't count, but that's fine.
Do you want mine? I have it
I'm
at home.
sorry. I'm quite sure the board would be more than happy to share that with you. My name is Stanika Lipovac, Dr. Stanika Lipovac, 4 Sonoma Road, Cortland Manor. I have 4 children. 3 graduated, one in 2010, one in 2011, one this year, and we have a 4th grader who is still in a school district. My husband and I started a petition, And we'll stay away from any names. I just want to say that by our nature, I think that I can say for everybody here, we are polite and civil people. I have to say that I'm horribly annoyed with the fact that the board does not speak to us. I think that is, although it's your rule, and you can go with your rule however you want, I just want to remind everybody that you're all elected to be here, and as taxpayers and concerned parents, we need to be heard. So we put out a petition over a particular teacher, and in our petition, we were trying to explain how outraged we were with the fact that this teacher, we were told, is leaving the school district. And we gathered, as of now, 247 signatures. About 45 of those signatures are multiple members from the same family, and the rest of them are representatives of a family. If we say that we have approximately 4 members for a family and have about 200 signatures, I think that we speak here for about 800 people in a school district. So we would like to be heard, understood, and acted on our requests. As somebody who has a pleasure of sharing her life with a teacher who happens to be absolutely phenomenal in what he does, I do know how important it is to have a good teacher and how rare it is to find a good teacher. Having the ability to teach is a gift. And when you find that gift, you grow that gift. You do not throw the gift away. The important thing about being a leader is to recognize your talents. And it's to work on a talent. Nobody comes perfect. Nobody. As much as we all like to think that we are as close to perfect as we can come, we are not. I supervise 600 people. For the last 15 years, I've been a senior manager with professional, paraprofessional, all sorts of staff. When you recognize somebody who is really good at what they do, regardless if that's teaching, if that's working with developmental disabilities, what I do, if that's working with patients, you try to work on that to improve it. If there are flaws, we all have flaws. When somebody makes a mistake, you weigh the benefit of having a person versus the risk of having that person, and you then say what's more important. We are, and I think I speak to, I know I speak on my husband's behalf for sure, and I think I speak for many parents here, at least the parents that we've been talking to. We are absolutely outraged with the fact that a teacher who received nothing but love notes in this petition, and if you bother to read, you will see an absolute outpour of affection, love, respect for this teacher, who is doing nothing but helping our kids grow professionally, helping our children grow as leaders, helping our children learn. Our son is right now, who graduated in a sophomore year, who adores this teacher. He's right now at UC Berkeley taking summer session physics that is considered to be exceptionally hard. He told us that he learned everything he needed to learn and he should get an A without any problems. So this is somebody that you hold on to, because if you need a list of teachers that underperform, don't perform well enough, or are mean and not kind to children, they're belittling children, they're not working with them in a way that they need to work, they're not respecting them, I'm quite sure we can come up with a list, and we can present you with that list, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking to scapegoat somebody, then shame on you, because this man does not deserve it. This man is exceptional. So what I am questioning here, as a taxpayer, as a concerned parent, and for the record, we have nothing to gain here. Our child graduated high school. Our next one in line is in the 4th grade. So we have a long way to go before she hits the high school. We have nothing to gain other to do the right thing, other than a concern that we have for every child in this community for having the opportunity to have what our child had. And many of the parents here will tell you the same thing. It's our concern that children have an opportunity to learn from somebody who respects them, who never cut them any slack. Children work extra hard. And if you are unable to recognize that, then you shouldn't be sitting here, none of you. The board should resign, and the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, all of you should just leave. Because if you don't have the ability to lead the school district, which I highly doubt after this, I had my doubts all along, because we've seen nothing in the last 15 years that we've been living here but the school district declining. We came here to something very different. I had my dealings with the board, as many of you know, in the past, where you explained to me that it wasn't illegal what the person did. And I wasn't talking illegal. I was talking right. I was talking decent. I was talking being an adult. I was asking for an apology. And you didn't go there because somehow that wasn't important enough. Well, this is important enough. This was important enough for my husband and I and for our family to start this petition and to have 247 signatures on this petition and to have a showing that's greater showing than we had in ever. I've been to a number of meetings other than when you have an event. So if you are not going to lead the school district, then you need to leave. And you need to go somewhere else because to us, our children's education is very important. And I think that this board sat here with the previous superintendent and we let things slide left and right. So therefore, I really don't think that any one of you here have a moral grounds to stand on, to go after this man and to do things that you're doing right now. And who are you really punishing? You're punishing our children. You're punishing our school district. You're punishing the community. Because if this program goes, this man goes and this program goes, this is your shining star. This is somebody you should run around advertising, letting everybody know how good you have it, how good we all have it as a community. We as a community are super proud of this. We think that this is something you need to show to everybody. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be here. Then you should go somewhere else. Because we are tired of watching our taxes going up and our property values going down. We are tired of seeing houses not being sold because people do not want to come to this school district. And as somebody who is paying a hefty school tax, I deserve to be heard, and so does everybody else in this room. So again, I'm questioning your leadership abilities if you're incapable of knowing who your stars are. And if you're incapable of learning who your underperformers or poor performers are, and if you either don't want or do not know or don't know how, improve the ones who are underperforming and help the stars shine even brighter, then you need to look for a place somewhere else because you do not deserve to be here. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello. As I'm going to guess a lot of you already know who I am. My name is Heather McElrath. I have two students in your, well, sort of in your district. My daughter is in an out-of-state, out-of-district program, and my son is a junior in the high school. I understand your need to go over rules, and the idea that somebody might make disparaging remarks, I think is frankly kind of easy to think of. I have no disparaging remarks. I have a true misunderstanding of what is happening to our school district as one by one we let our good teachers and our good administrators leave to another district. There is not just one teacher involved in this, there are many. And it's not just one teachers, there's administrators involved. And through privacy protection and whatnot, the parents don't have the advantage of knowing the whole story, which I understand to some degree. I also understand that in a year for us that it was more difficult than any of you, maybe some of you can, unfortunately, but many of you can imagine. This school district rallied. They helped my family. They helped my son. They helped him through classes where he lost half of his coursework for a year in AP classes because of it. And in a year where he could have very easily been lost, he was found. Now, it does happen to be about the teacher I signed the petition for. But there are many teachers here who find him every day, and my fear is I am watching them disappear one by one. I am watching an administrator leave that I do not wish to go. I am watching teachers leave. And it is my understanding, which may be flawed, that there are 10 people involved in the circumstances in which the argument is taking place now. And due to tenure, 7 of these people will be staying with us while 3 of them leave. I find it appallingly inappropriate. I also feel like it is distracting us from some other things that are happening right now. You want to talk about who's a leader and have your stars shine, as she mentioned? Well, because I come from both sides of the fence. I have a daughter who is out of district and out of state, which makes everybody unhappy, I'm sure. But it is what she needs, and it has been what's best for her, and the school district has helped immensely in getting her there, and I have been nothing but grateful. But at the same time, how many of you on the board are aware that through the neglective hiring of an interim superintendent, an interim special ed director, or the proper words, which I don't remember anymore. We are now, and this may come as a surprise to some of you sitting out there, we are now at risk of losing our state funding for special education due to his ineptitude. Does that compare to the actions that happened with these teachers somewhere that we can't even get all the details on? It doesn't even come close to comparing. And I can't help but feel, since a lot of these parents that are going to come to you have experience with this teacher or these teachers in the high school, I don't. And much like the other lady, I'm sorry I don't remember her name, the other lady who spoke, I have nothing to gain. Robert is done with this particular program. My daughter will never have the opportunity, unfortunately, to be in that program. And it's not because he's leaving. It's because that is not something that she is capable of. So I have nothing to gain to stand here and to ask you, what are we doing? Maybe that's the best question. I've thought for days on what I wanted to say and what I didn't want to say. And I want to know, what are we doing? Why are we sacrificing people? And why are we letting good people leave on top of that? It's not just the people who have been asked to leave. There's additional people who are leaving because they don't want this to keep going on and because they have no recognition. And it's become nothing but a rumor mill now where we have to fend for ourselves. So whereas I respect the fact that those are the rules and you can't answer, at what point do we, as the parents of the students in question, do we get to know why this decision was made? Because nobody's allowed to discuss it. And I have a real problem with the idea that if you're going to dismiss any teachers or any administration, then everyone involved is either dismissed or no one is. It seems like it is very arbitrary. And to tell you very safely that my son is a very good student, but he can get very lost sometimes. He gets overwhelmed. And the event that I'm speaking of, enough of you know about, so it doesn't really matter, is that our house burned down in his freshman year. This school and SEED and those teachers helped him at a point in his freshman year where he really, really needed it. And I don't think he would be looking at the schools he is and in the programs he is if it hadn't been. Now, I'm not supposed to discuss that staff member, but I hope that's not off bounds to tell you that, you know, Dr. Rogers had a huge part to play in that. A non-school employee, Mr. Manick, who runs your debate team, had a huge part in that. It's a team of people who work together well, and you're starting to rip them apart. And I don't feel that it's appropriate. I don't feel that it's been explained in any way that makes any sense. And I would just ask, I'm one of those signatures, and I'm one of those people who believes that, like I said, you can't arbitrarily decide that this person and this person are not okay. Because what it comes down to is leaving a bad taste of tenure in your mouth again. Most people don't like tenure anyway, whether they even understand it or not, they don't like it. And now what you're seeing is the 3 people without tenure are leaving, and it's that simple. And the 7 people with tenure are staying. So how does that leave anything left in your mouth as a parent other than to wonder what choices are being made for what reasons? And I'm asking to look at it again. You're destroying someone's reputation. You're destroying a program within the school that you think you can save with another teacher. Maybe you can, but I don't think so. I don't think so. You said it would be a sidestep. It's not a sidestep. It's a great loss. It is a great loss for this district to go through. I moved here for this district, and I have never regretted it. Never. Not even when I've argued with special ed. Not even when I've stood here and cried about my daughter. I have never regretted being here. I don't want to start. I want you to really think about it. I know that it doesn't matter much, but I want it heard. I want you to understand the impact that these teachers are having on the students and what you're taking away from your incoming students.
Thank you.
So nothing, none of you will respond to this? This is the rule still, you're quiet and we talk?
Well, you know,
Don't you find yourself ridiculous?
first off, we can't really address them, but you can come to the podium, please, but we will address, my
No,
guess
I'm
is you're
appalled
all,
with this rule.
sir, my guess is that everybody's talking about the same thing, so we can address it at the end. Whatever we can address, because again, with personnel and privacy issues, we're disinclined. It's really not in anybody's best interest to elaborate.
My name is Mary Jo Barry. I live at 6 Thrush Way, Cortlandt Manor. I'm the mother of 3 sons, 2 of whom graduated from Manhood and 1 who's going into his junior year. Over the 22 years we've lived in this district, the most stunning revelation is the mediocrity that's allowed to exist. I have sat through teachers that played movies for months. I've had kids with teachers, this year in fact, who take the last week of school off and don't prepare the kids for the Regents. I've been with teachers that have back issues every year and never show up. So this year, it was an absolute breath of fresh air to have a teacher that my son, came home and adored, and who pushed him and pushed him and pushed him and gave him an enormous amount of work, and which he loved and which he was motivated and which he was frustrated with and which he was having difficulty with, and with this teacher who stayed with him after school, worked with him on projects, gave him motivation, talked to him about engineering options, talked to him about engineering schools, gave him focus. And when I heard he was leaving, I said to myself, it's Hen Hud. They've done it over and over and over again. It's like stabbing yourself in the foot. What are we doing? Our house prices are going to hell. The school has a terrible reputation. It's not like when I moved in here, where I actually believed the real estate lady. People go online. What do they see? Problem after problem after problem. Every time there's a decision before this board that requires some sort of judgment, they seem to get it wrong. I'm sorry, I like a lot of you. I know a lot of you. But I don't understand how over and over again we lose good teachers and we keep mediocrity. I never come in and complain. I'm a very lucky woman. My kid is a lousy teacher, I get him a tutor. You know, my kids go on to good schools because they're coming from a family that has two parents with professional degrees who are going to help them where the teacher falls off. There's an awful lot of students that don't have that, and I feel bad for them. So when you have a teacher, or actually two teachers that were in this, who are terrific, who go above and beyond, who aren't running out the door at 2:05, we've all seen them, who aren't, taking days off at every whim, who don't blow off a parent-teacher meeting. I had that this year, too. Thank you, I took that day off. But that's what I'm used to, and I've gotten to the point, unfortunately, where it's like, it's Hen Hud. What are you going to do? I'll be out of here soon. But you know what? Someday I got to sell my house. And more than that, there's other kids. There's younger kids. And they deserve to have a good school district. There's no excuse for this school district being in the shape it is, other than poor leadership. Thank you.
Nobody else?
Can I ask for clarification of the rule, or do I have to?
You have to come up.
Sorry. I hate to do that to you. Do I have to do the name thing again?
I'm sorry?
Do I do the whole name thing again, or am I
We
good?
know who you are.
Thank you. I want clarification, if you can respond. This is something I feel you can respond to. He asked a simple question about whether you're allowed to respond. Having been to other board meetings, mostly my motivation being special ed, to be honest with you, but being to other board meetings, I can tell you that answering questions is not something the board does. It is in their policy, to my knowledge, that they do not answer questions. And in the no less than 8 times I've been in a board meeting, no question has ever been answered. So I would like, at least when you're prepared, that you could explain what that rule is. Because I've never received an answer from the board. In all the times that I've come up and talked, I have never had anybody answer me. And it is something that I find so frustrating. I find it very, very offensive, because we're up here, we came here to pour out our whole hearts and souls with you. And to leave after feeling that kind of a passion, and to not even know why we're not being answered, on top of not being answered, is a further insult. So, thank you.
I apologize for coming back up. But one thing I would ask, even though you don't answer questions, but I think it's important, is the rumor in the district is that the engineering program is over. At best, they'll only do the first year next year, and I think that should be clarified. There are parents who have called me whose kids are in 8th grade who are debating between private and public school, and it's actually what may make their mind go one way or the other. So whether you want to say something tonight or not, I think you need to have a little transparency. The rumors that have gone on in this district, hit any restaurant, bar, or cocktail party in this town, and boy, you'd get an earful. No one knows what's going on. I've been around long enough that you only believe half or less of what you hear, but I really think this board and this district has to let people know whether this program is going to go forward or not, whoever the teacher is. Thank you.
I just need to give my name and address.
Yes, please.
Jake Avellino, 264 Furnace Dock Road. I just finished my junior year here at Hendrick Hudson. I've spent the last 3 years in this teacher's program, in the engineering program. And I'd just like to say that personally, I feel that I've taken more out of that program at this school than I have any other programs, any other classes, and I'm sure, you know, there's a lot of kids here behind me that I'm sure would say the same exact thing about this program, that we are at, it does sound like we will lose, that we won't be able to continue this, and ultimately there's a lot of kids coming up through the middle school, coming up through the elementary school that won't have that opportunity. The teacher here that we're losing changed really who I am and changed how I see things, how I see my future, and in a definite positive way. He had a very positive effect on my life, and again, I'm sure all these kids behind me would say the same exact thing. Ultimately, we're losing somebody like that for unclear reasons. We should be fighting to keep teachers like this. We should not be letting them go. We should be fighting to keep them because they make a huge positive difference on every kid who walks through their classroom. And I'm just worried that for future students, because I wouldn't have been able to take any classes with him my senior year, so it doesn't directly affect me. But it does directly affect my two younger brothers and who knows how many other students that could have potentially benefited from this teacher. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you for your comments. I cannot speak to details. I can't. For privacy issues, for personnel, those are issues. I cannot speak to privacy, to details, specific details for privacy and personnel. I just can't. I do thank you all for going out, for coming out and talking to us, because you know, I have had a child who was in this program and one that's coming up, and I can assure you this program will continue. I have to tell you, though, that I would ask you very much to understand that the board, this decision was not made lightly, and we gave this a tremendous, tremendous amount of conversation. We've had multiple discussions. The superintendent will tell you, and he will in more detail, but we absolutely, the program will continue, and it will continue this fall, and it will continue for years thereafter. We have the various STEM initiatives, and it's very important to this district and to all of us. To suggest that the board does not care about the children or does not care about the program is, frankly, it's insulting, because we do. We all have children here, and or we've had children here, or we teach here, or we've taught here, and to suggest that somebody did this arbitrarily it's worse than insulting. And to suggest that we don't care is just, you know, we put in countless hours, and many hours have been dedicated to a discussion to this situation. So to suggest that anything was done arbitrarily and without considering all of the facts is unfair. We are committed to the program, and we have high expectations for this program, and we intend for it to continue for years to come in this district, and with any luck, we actually hope for it to expand at some point. Joe?
Yeah, I can
Anthony,
speak.
could I?
No.
I can speak to moving forward. Families who are in all of the Project Lead the Way programs will receive a communication either tomorrow or Friday from either myself or the principal, Jim Mackin. And I'll just give you highlights of what the most recent draft is. Project Lead the Way, to respond to some concerns, will remain. It's a staple of our program. In fact, additional teachers are being trained for next year, and enrollment is up by 40%. We have around 90 students that are being that will be involved in the program next year, and we're introducing a new course next year for the first time in the 5-year history of the program, digital electronics. So the concern or the rumor mill, as the board president said, there are some things we can correct and discuss and others we can't. I can assure you all of the courses that have been offered will continue to be, as well as new courses being added to the program.
Is the new instructor going to be an
You have
engineer, or
to
is he
come
just going to
up.
be another teacher? I'm sorry.
You have to, I'm sorry, we can't take it from the floor, just,
Paul Barry, 6 Thrushway. Is the new instructor going to be an engineer or just a math teacher that you're going to train over the summer?
at this point, I believe that are training several people, and they're coming from our.
My question is the person an engineer or just a teacher?
Pardon?
Two of the people who are going for training have worked in engineering, are engineers, they're trained engineers.
Are they actual engineers with degrees in engineering or they went to school
Yes.
for something else?
They have degrees and have worked in the industry.
Okay.
So I do have a comment because I feel that your comment about this being unfair and being insulting is kind of pointed at me and the rest.
No, it's everybody.
So, yeah, everybody. So I guess we came to insult you then, because if you find that insulting, what I find really horribly insulting is the fact that you are sitting here telling us that you didn't take this lightly. You're giving us a song and dance. The enrollment increased. Why did the enrollment increase? Because all the kids know what a terrific, fabulous teacher they're going into. Let's talk about your enrollment a year into this program when you take somebody off the street and train them. You can train anybody to give something to somebody. You can train any fool to take a book and read it out to the kids. What you can't train and you cannot ever teach to somebody is how to care about a child, how to motivate a child, how to make life lessons out of something. That's what you can't do. So telling us, it's insulting that you're sitting here telling us that you are training somebody. You have an exemplary man here, and you are telling me that I'm insulting you by telling you that we are coming here telling you don't care. Frankly, I don't care if you're insulted, because frankly, you're insulting me with your behavior, as this board already did. You're sitting here all like statues, allowing us to come here, and you're giving us 3 minutes. Oh, gee, let's tell you what we think, like we care. Because if you really cared, 1, 2, 3 that I can see here from the previous board meeting with the previous superintendent, who did nothing, and you knew it. And there was no respect of this community, and you lost the respect of this community. And we can go on and on and on. Because more I'm talking to this community, more I'm learning about what's going on here. Again, as Mrs. Berry said, we're a fortunate family. We have our children tutored if they need to be tutored. We have our children travel. We have our children read, because we can afford that. And I know in previous sessions you blamed the demographics on a poor performance. You blamed people who don't have English as a first language. I sat here, so please don't deny it. No, you should blame yourselves for allowing mediocre performance, for allowing teachers who don't teach, who just simply come here to spend their time, and for allowing excellent teachers to be forced out by you. You are forcing out somebody who is exceptional. And if you're unable to see it, I'm going to say this again. We will ask for you to leave the board. Because I will not sit here and let you ruin the school district. I will not sit here and allow my 4th grader here to think that mediocre is okay, because not in our house, mediocre is not okay. You strive to be the best. And if you have a teacher that promotes that in children, you fight to keep him. You don't sit here telling us that you're insulted, because I'm insulted beyond measure with your behavior and the behavior of the entire board.
My name's Teresa Wakens, 424 Depew Street, Peekskill, New York. I have 2 more years in this school, going into my junior year next year. And if I hadn't had the English teacher I had this year, I probably wouldn't be standing here. I probably wouldn't even want to be going into junior year. I wouldn't want to be going to college. She changed my entire sophomore year, my attitude towards school, towards college. My grades, my GPA went up 4 points because of her. And there's how many teachers? 70 teachers in the school, 65. About 59 of them couldn't care less about any of these kids. They're out of the school at 2:07 the second the bell rings. You need extra help? You can go during your lunch period. You can go to another teacher. These two teachers, especially my English teacher, not naming names, cares about kids, helps me over email, helps me with other classes, helps me not just in school, but with out of school, with anything that has personally. How many teachers do that? In this school, in other districts, Croton, I'm sure they have a couple teachers who care too. Hen Hud has an extremely large amount of teachers who care, and you're getting rid of 2 of them who care the most. It doesn't have to do with the engineering program might not be as good as it was this year, next year because of a different teacher. It has to do with the person that you're firing because of one mistake. You guys have all made mistakes, all of you. But you made it here. I'm sure you all have had second chances. Give these 2 people, because they didn't have tenure, a second chance. They made one mistake. One. And I'm not the only kid. I came here. I know a lot of people who wanted to come here tonight and speak, but they didn't. I'm the one who came because I think that you're making a huge mistake by getting rid of these 2 teachers. Thank you.
You asked us to consider that you're not making an arbitrary decision. And even if you're not going to disclose finite details, you haven't disclosed anything, nothing whatsoever. And my question isn't based on an individual teacher. My question is, why is it that there are only 3 people leaving and 7 people staying? It comes right down to tenure. And as she said, and something I learned really the hard way a long time ago, if somebody came to my home to take my kids away every time I made a mistake, I wouldn't have any left by a long shot. And I've only got 2, so that's kind of good. You know, the other situation of this is just sad. It's sad. And we have to find a way to communicate as a district because you're not his boss and you're not her teacher's boss. We are. And we are asking for them to stay. Where are the parents that are outraged by the incident and the behavior saying, go team go, that's what you should have done? Where are those people tonight? They're not here because they don't have to be, because that's the decision you've made, I guess. But I still expected some of them to come to defend you. If no one's come to your defense and your defense of your decision, and yet you've got teenagers that aren't in school, who are in a school building defending someone they love, is that not enough of emotion for you to at least reconsider? Because you're ignoring your students, you're ignoring your parents, and although one of the administrators that is leaving us is not even involved in this, to me that's another clear sign that they're not respected or taken well, and that they're leaving and looking for other places to go. And I don't want to see that happen, because as I have mentioned before, I have not had any real regret since coming here. This is the first time I have felt like there has been no responsibility to the community or to the parents or to the students given. Or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but that's the point of this is just that you're not letting us know what these decisions are based on, even by the rule books. Like, we can't even look up to see what rules were violated, to see if it makes sense. You beg us to listen and say not to insult you. I didn't come here to insult you. I felt insulted from the second I found out. I felt hurt from the second I found out. He changed Robert. Robert went from not succeeding in math, quite literally, in AP and every other class, but not math. Do you know what he spent this last few weeks of his school term doing? Tutoring other students in math. Where did he learn those skills? In the engineering program, with a strong teacher who wouldn't put up with anything. So I guess all of you are without mistakes, is the only thing I can say, and I apologize because, as has been mentioned, I know many of you, and I have cared for many of you, and I know that I had previously would say that everything was fine. They're doing their best. I don't feel like this is the best.
We know your name, but you still have to say it, huh?
Matthew Gutchis, 26 Skytop Drive. I can speak to both the English teacher and the engineering teacher who are leaving. I had the the English teacher last year, and I was always a regular English student. I'm a math and science kid. That's how I was brought up. But I took AP this year. The English teacher who's leaving gave me the confidence to do that. I went into that class expecting it to be another skating by in an English course, but I excelled. I felt so confident coming out of that I was ready to sign up for my first AP class. And I came out of that class and I succeeded. And I credit all of that to her for just giving me that boost to be able to go in that class. So I thank her for that. And she's just a great teacher and an even better person. And to see her leave is a shame. And as for the engineering teacher, you can fill the engineering role. You can teach somebody how to teach engineering. They can study the books, they can study the course, they can understand the curriculum. They can teach it, and you'll get a good grade in the class, good grade on the final, whatever. But you can't teach somebody to inspire people. You can't teach somebody to change people's lives. And that's something I honestly feel like I have taken out of that program. I took Intro to Engineering the first year, and I took Principles of Engineering this year. And I'm tomorrow morning I'm going to work again because I just love doing it. I love that class, everything about it. I learn things. I mean, I'm building a deck at my house, and I'm using tools that I learned in that class to do that. I mean, and that's above and beyond. The teacher that we're losing goes above and beyond everything. The final exam was so easy because we had already covered leagues past that. We had, and it's something that nobody who's going into the position will be able to do. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
I'd like to make a comment. My name's Philip Shelley. I live at 249 Kings Ferry Road. I have two daughters in the school, and a son who's going to be here next year. My two daughters are in the varsity volleyball program, and that was their only experience with this engineering teacher, and they didn't have a good one with him, with his comments regarding their physiques, to put it politely. That said, I don't have any idea what went into the decision that was made or what didn't go into the decision that was made. But I've seen the school district offer more and better things. I've also seen it be hamstrung by people who won't vote to fund certain bonds, certain projects, things like that. I think that's what hurts property values. It's when we can't get a field that'll enable kids to practice all year round, whereas in other districts, they can get a field. Okay? Come out, make that happen. I understand from listening to the very impassioned comments here, and I'm sure this teacher was a leader, the engineering teacher. I'm sure that so was the English teacher. I've learned in my life, as I haven't lost teachers, but over the years, I could understand that sometimes people are fantastic people, and they can lead and pull and cause tremendous change and tremendous movement. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're always appropriate to be in every type of circumstance. Some of the very best teachers probably can't fit into a high school. And so that's something that maybe the board had to wrestle with. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I didn't feel insulted at all by the board's refusal to discuss their decision. And I'll tell you why. I have some understanding of the law as it applies to situations like this. And what I know is that unless you have a written waiver from the subject of any kind of employment proceeding. You can't make a comment without opening yourself up to interference with prospective contracts, slander, and libel, and a whole other host of things that can tie you up in litigation for a long time. If anyone ever gets fired from a job or let go from a job, try doing this. Have someone call your boss and ask for a recommendation regarding you. And all they're going to say is, our policy is that we can merely confirm that he worked here from, or she worked here from this date to that date. And that's all you're going to get. Because that's what people do to avoid being embroiled in courts forever and ever. So, although I don't want to put words in their mouths, I could tell you that if I was on the board, that would be why I wasn't going to be discussing anything about the decision that went into it. It's not that anyone, I wouldn't assume that anyone's trying to hide anything or give anybody short shrift or disrespect anyone. In fact, looking at the faces of these board members, I could see that these are decisions that caused them a lot of personal turmoil. That's just me. I used to tend bar for a long time. So, that's what it looks like to me. I want to thank the board for enduring a very challenging appearance tonight. There's a lot of, I was going to say, better you than me. Anyway, thanks for all you do, and to your parents there who are upset about these things, and to the students, there's life after this, trust me. And everything that you learned from this teacher, you carry it forward, and you bring it to the students around you. They're going to find someone, and it'll be okay. All right?
Thank you.
This is your defense?
No, I'm actually very happy that somebody came up and spoke that felt differently, as I assume there must be people who feel differently. So, you know, we're here to speak. Everyone has their opinion and has the entitlement to speak. So I'm happy that he addressed that. And you are correct on the employment level, having been behind some of that myself. If you call and ask for a recommendation, he's exactly right. You'll get this person worked from point A to point B. Unless you have a personal letter of recommendation, that's usually where most jobs go. But that aside, the litigation factor, too late. Far too late. Or is that something that we are not supposed to know as a public either? You're going to be embroiled in a lawsuit. You are already embroiled in a lawsuit. The proceedings are in place. So hundreds of thousands of dollars of hen hunt money will go to an attorney who I've met who has no stake in this in some sense. None. None. So you want to talk about attorneys and saving money? It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars for the teachers who decide to fight for their rights, and it will cost the school hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight back. And nobody wants it, from what I can see.
So I think I want to sum it up that the school district is losing one way or another because, or if you proceed with your idea, we are going to lose both ways. Because that money is not going to come out of any of your pockets. It's going to come out of our pockets and out of your pockets if you happen to live around. So we are going to lose excellent teachers. And again, we are only focusing on engineering teacher because that's my husband and I, because that's the only teacher that we know. We heard fabulous things about every single teacher being involved in this. Fabulous. And if you are going to stay deaf on what children are telling you, never mind us. I'm an angry parent. I am beyond angry at this point. Never mind me, forget what I said, but listen to these kids here. Listen to the children who had a chance to have a teacher who pulled them through their high school and made sure they graduated. So we are going to take that away, and on top of that, we are going to pay legal bills because you're sitting here unable to recognize when you make a mistake, and I already know that about you. I already know that as a board, you're incapable of admitting that you made a mistake and issuing a simple sorry. I apologize for what I did. That makes a person the ability to recognize its own mistakes and to act on them. And again, if you're unable to do that, then you shouldn't be here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out and talking to us. Is everybody Has everybody said what they would come here to say? All right, we have commented, the board has made the comments that they're going to. As I said before, we cannot offer any details for privacy issues, for personnel issues. I'm hesitant to add anything more because it went over so poorly the last time. But other than that, I cannot provide you with any other information regarding this situation in terms of exact details, except to assure you that the engineering program will be continuing. So, thank you. The decision was made, but thank you for.
So you said the decision was made?
The decision
It's
was.
very hard to
Resigned.
These individuals resigned, and it was.
They did
No, they didn't resign. No, you forced them to
Okay,
resign.
so I'm not an attorney, but I've been a senior manager for many years. So I'm sorry, there is a box on termination, on separation notice that says resignation in lieu of termination. So don't tell us that they resigned, because those two teachers would not leave if they were not forced to leave. So at least, don't insult our intelligence. At least don't behave toward us
And
like.
they talk to another potential employer, they will be telling them that they resigned. They
Yes, of
resigned,
course.
and
But don't
they
tell that to
accepted
us,
their
because nobody here is a
resignation.
fool. So please don't insult
I'm
us.
not trying to insult you.
They
I
did
am
not
just
resign
letting
at
you
their
know
own will.
that
They
that's-
resigned because you made them resign. That's why they resigned. And you're telling us here the decision has been made. You're telling us here that you're just going to sit here. But this is what I'm going to tell you here. We are going to move the community to remove you from here. And I will spend time and effort and energy. And I know that I speak for both of us. We will do that. Again, I have nothing to gain out of this. Nothing. Because my fourth grader will be going to a private school that, unlike some people sitting on the board, I will be paying for myself. So if you feel that you have the moral grounds to stand on, then go ahead and stand on them. But we will make sure that you don't have a place to be on any longer, because this is unacceptable. This is insulting. This is wrong. And when we pay those bills, and when that lawsuit gets settled, we will know. It will become public. So don't kid anybody. We know that it will become public after hundreds of thousands of dollars of our money that could have been spent on something else. And if we're going to be talking about teachers being inappropriate, how is it for you that a teacher accused my son of killing Bosnians because he's a Serb? So we may just go ahead and file a lawsuit against you and your teacher. How is that for insulting? Oh, we are discussing physiques? How is it calling a child lumpy? Was that? How is that for a lovely teacher? Is that okay? Is that what you are promoting because those teachers have tenure? And you're going to just sit here and tell us that some teachers are perfect? That is not okay. That is not okay. And if you have personal vendetta against them, then you should just come off the board. Because you do not come here to exercise your personal feelings towards somebody. You come here to represent us, all of us, our children, our community, parents as taxpayers. That's why you're here. You're not here to have a personal agenda. You're not here to gain something out of this, other than the knowledge that you are helping the community.
You know, I'm sorry that you're disenchanted. I just have to tell you that you don't know us, so when you suggest that we have some sort of personal motives or vendettas, it's just, I'm not sure why, but it's absolutely not so.
As Mrs. Berry said, just go out in a community to any cocktail party. When you leave a void, the rumors fill the void. When you don't tell what's going on, the rumor mill starts. And people are free to come up with any story.
And again, Milan Lipovac, number 4 Sonoma Road. I suggest you all go back to executive session and reconsider this. You have 3 more days, because if you don't, you're going to make a living hell out of the school district. Because what you did is wrong. What you did is wrong. You know it's wrong. Whatever happened didn't deserve these guys to be fired. I suggest you, as a representative of us, go back behind that closed door and reconsider your decision. This will resolve this issue in a split second.
Thank you. Our next topic was to move the board comments and new business up. And Charles, I believe you had a topic that you had like to bring up.
Yes. I wasn't aware of it until this week, but I wanted to bring it as a public service announcement. June is National PTSD Awareness Month. And June 27th, this Friday, is National PTSD Awareness Day. And this is a relatively new recognition. Congress passed it in 2010 and put it into place. I'm going to read a couple of quotes. While you've probably heard about PTSD in the context of war veterans, the disorder can impact anyone who has gone through a traumatic experience, including children. In fact, more than 3 million children in the United States alone are believed to have PTSD. This is by Boston's Children's Hospital. A traumatic event can seriously interrupt the school routine and the processes of teaching and learning. There are usually high levels of emotional upset, potential for disruptive behavior, or loss of student attendance, and unless efforts are made to reach out to students and staff with additional information and services. Students traumatized by exposure to violence have been shown to have lower grade point averages, more negative remarks in their cumulative records, and more reported absences from school than other students. They may have increased difficulties concentrating and learning at school and may engage in unusually reckless or aggressive behavior. The involvement of the school is critical in supporting students through the emotional and physical challenges they may face following an exposure to a traumatic event. As a community member and parent, I believe PTSD and the effects of adverse childhood experiences, including trauma, on learning are important issues for schools and communities to educate themselves about to be able to support children and families. Even at the low range of estimates, which is about 3% of children have PTSD, our community has a probability of we have 2,600 students, we have a probability of over 75 children with PTSD who have the potential for disruptive behavior, increased absences, lower grades, and other behaviors with negative lifetime outcomes. But PTSD, though, is the tip of the iceberg. Children who've experienced trauma, neglect, and abuse are all around us, and it affects their educational experiences, as the Adverse Childhood Experiences study shows. And I just want to leave it at that. It's something that happens either through single events or chronic events, and it affects children. We don't recognize it. Sometimes you see a kid going down the hall with his hoodie pulled down and his earphones in, and he's undergoing flashbacks. Or you see a kid in a class who's hunched over playing with his phone, and he's reliving another experience. So it's something to be aware of. There's a lot of data out there. The National Traumatic Network has pages on it. The VA has information on it. Something to be aware of, because in an environment where we're putting ever more stress on our children through high-stakes testing and other kinds of things, and children don't have as much support. Some children don't have as much support in their family structure. They're more likely to experience events that lead them to this. So I just wanted to bring it to the community so you would know about it. Thank you for listening.
And you're removing a teacher who is a very supportive of students. Enroll them in engineering class. If you see them with a hood and a phone, enroll them in engineering class. They may benefit from it. That's what you should do. Don't give us a lecture on all of these things. You're supposed to do something for these kids. And you have a guy who can do this.
Sir, you're not supposed to be shouting.
Yes, I'm supposed to be shouting.
No, you're not, sir. There is
I'm
actually.
sick and tired of this game.
There's
This is
no game,
ridiculous what
sir.
you're doing to all of us.
Thank you. There's no game, and frankly, shouting from the audience is really not appropriate.
Anyway, Charles,
Maybe
I
it's not appropriate. It's not
wanted to
appropriate
thank
what
you
you're doing.
for your comments, because I do think it's really important to have awareness of needs we may not see with students, and to create a more supportive environment for all of our students. And the board does certainly recognize this. We'd like to see, which we talked about at the last SEPTA meeting, more training for for teachers and all administrators on how to give students more support to recognize these complex disabilities that aren't always apparent. And it's not only PTSD, but in fact 1 in 5 students do suffer from some kind of mental disorder over the course of their lives. So it's really important that we do have supportive teachers, and it's great to hear that we have teachers here who are going the extra mile, but I think we need to have this greater understanding. So thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so that brings us to our committee reports. I believe, Carol, you had policy was talking about the attendance, and David White, I believe you were going to be discussing the READ committee. So if we could just, we'll do the attendance first.
Sure. We're still discussing when students move within district in the elementary school grades in particular, obviously, whether they should be allowed to continue in during their 5th grade year or move to the new school, and at what date that should be done, whether we need to set a specific date or not for that cutoff.
Yes.
Want to add anything?
Pretty nice to
Yeah,
have a
I
policy.
think the key is to create a policy that takes into account changes in students' lives when they move, and moving schools and teachers and principals and new friends and all those things, but also keeping an eye on the fiscal responsibility that we have an accounting system for where kids are, where they should be, and when they're going to go there. For example, this sort of idea of a deadline of when you must move to your new school is an important one, but there are pros and cons to it. For example, throughout the winter and the spring, let's say we're talking about Frank G's enrollment, we are anticipating sections and support and staffing for the following year based on data we have in front of us in January, February, March. So if a student were to move mid-year, that student multiplied by 10 or 15 others that may move throughout the year could trigger changes in staffing, and when you trigger changes in staffing, that has a financial implication. So sometimes it might be more financially responsible to allow a student to finish the school year in a particular school where they move because they've been accounted for and staffing and program have been aligned. So what we're discussing is, are there some outs or some considerations for us to have the policy reflect that there are other factors in play, not just, well, you moved on November 1st, therefore you must physically go, but if you move after December 15th, you can stay. So there are circumstances, I think, that the policy needs to reflect and give some flexibility for some of those scenarios I outlined. So we're sort of in principle getting close to I'd say a bullet point philosophy of what we'd like to achieve through the policy, and certainly when we get to a place we're ready to have the board weigh in on it, we will. But I think that from our last meeting in the high school cafeteria, there's consensus from the board to accept the policy moving forward that would allow students who move at some point in 4th grade, or certainly as they move in the 5th grade, let them stay in their home school for 5th grade. And so we're going to communicate to families to let them know that if they'd like to stay in their home school for 5th grade, they can. They'll be responsible for transportation, but that will be an opportunity for families and students to keep a certain level of consistency in their life as they pack up and move across town.
That about sums it up.
Will you be,
Does anybody have input or comments for us as we're going forward with this? Anything you feel strongly about?
I think the big question for the board, which we have to decide, is do we want just a blanket policy, this is the rule, do we want to have flexibility and have people apply? It almost seems like it'd be too much of an administrative burden to have, although it could be good in theory to have people have to apply for this transfer, because to worry about certain factors such as class splits could just make it too onerous for the administrator. So we can discuss this. We want to support our students and make sure they have a continuity in their educational experience, but we don't want to, we want to both have flexibility and rules, so we have to balance it. That's the key.
We want to be flexibly consistent.
Good luck.
So I don't know if board members want to weigh on this, or we want us to develop a policy based on, we will put forth a policy once we find a time to meet.
No, I know that we've had these conversations prior, so my feeling is that put something together, and if, based on the previous conversations, and we can go from there. Okay, so, thank you. The next topic, Reed, I believe David White is our invited guest here. How are you, David?
Fine. We had a Reed meeting Monday. The basic items that were discussed were first the purpose or object of the consortium this year is probably going to focus on shared services. As you know, there's a provision in the that's being working its way through the legislature right now, where our tax levy and our degree of service sharing are going to be linked. And the idea here was to do two things. First, to calculate and illustrate how much the various Reed school districts share services already, both through BOCES on one-on-one arrangements or with local governments. The other thing we want to do is advocate for a rational set of rules so that we're not stuck with something that makes it counterproductive to have reasonable shared service arrangements. Some of the services that have been discussed may actually end up costing us money. For instance, tech is something that we can do more efficiently in-house than we can do through BOCES. That's the kind of thing that we're going to be measuring. Karen Zevin, the former president of the Croton Harmon Board, is going to be the chair of Reed for this year. I'm upgrading the website. We're probably going to ask for some dues from the Reed districts to pay for the web hosting and things like that, although there are other arrangements that could be made perhaps through BOCES. We're going to have our meeting schedule published pretty shortly, and the upgraded website should be out within the next few days.
I think the bigger things, we're going to have fewer meetings and try to point to have one specific outcome that we're going to influence and try to get done. And so have fewer meetings, more directed, and gather data, and then go forward with that. The shared services that, in this year's budget, Governor Cuomo gave a property tax refund to people. Next year, that's going to be contingent on refunds will only be available to taxpayers whose districts adopt a plan to achieve at least a 1% saving derived from shared services among school districts and municipalities. And so we want to influence that argument.
Yeah, we're under the current first pass at the numbers indicate we're far above 1% right now. So the question is, if this is a rolling target, if this is going to advance, which direction do we want it to go? It gets involved with not just issues of funding, but also local control, and that's what the debate is going to be about.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you for attending on, continuing to attend. You can run, man, but you can't hide, right? Thank you. So that would bring us to, well, I'd say the highlight of the evening, but that really doesn't do him justice. Dylan Gambardella for student recognition. He's going to give us some insight into his science research and the iSweep finals.
Nice.
That he, not only did he did that, but he won.
So we also invited Dr. Rogers, and in fact, for everyone here and watching at home, we invited them 2 weeks ago and realized in the library we had no technology. So, cafeteria. We are in the library. We have technology. So we asked Dr. Rogers to give an overview of the science research program. She came and addressed the board in the past and and wanted to give some highlights to the year, and then allow Dylan to wrap it up and talk about his experience going to Houston.
Hello, everyone. I'm a little bit tired, so if I start speaking French, just forgive me. Yes, for those who do not know the Science Research Program, it's an intensive 3 to 4 year program, depending on which point you enter, where the students develop all kinds of skills that are very important and that will carry them through their college and university years, which is basically to learn to organize themselves, learn to produce a proposal, learn to read and write in the scientific language for scientific papers, which is very, very important. And I can't see either. We learn how to present effectively their research to an audience. Very briefly, the students develop a project, they write a proposal, and they meet and research scientists which they can work with. And we had many, many successes over the years, from Ali Goffman in MIT to Dylan at NYU, Jazz at Mount Sinai, who is going to be competing next year. And once they have implemented and researched their topic, they write a full 20 to 25 page, don't get scared, a research paper, which is really a scientific publication, quite identical to the ones that a PhD student would write at the end of a research, except it's a little bit smaller and briefer because they do only 2 summers of research, which is about 8 to 16 weeks of research altogether. So you cannot get as much data as you would if you were doing as many more years. I want to mention something that is very, very important, because we always forget that when we put out press releases that are claiming the accomplishment of our students over the years, and this year as well. We always forget the students who do not finish and present the paper and compete. And I want to say it because I want to make it very clear for those that don't stay. This is not a failure. This is not a loss. The people that do 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3 years and don't compete have learned so much in this program that even if they don't appear on the press release of the district with their names highlighted, they take a tremendous benefit over the years for their college and university career that is really, really extremely important. They have learned to organize themselves. They have learned to present. They have learned how to do research independently. And we always forget them when we recognize a lot of students. We have a couple of students that are going to leave our project or program this year, and I don't want them, if they see this recording, to consider it as a failure. I think they have learned a lot, and I want to commend them for continuing, for their determination of working into the program. What does it take to go through science research? It takes self-motivation, tremendous amount of resilience, a tremendous amount of tenacity, determination, and a lot of motivation and how can I say that? That's not in French. Help me here, Mr.
Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. Ouais. It is a lot about the academics. It's also a lot about the character. And that's very important. So this year was one of our best years so far as accomplishments that are visible, as I said. Audrey Hecht, who is not here today, has been a semi-finalist at the Intel Science Talent Search, which is one of the most competitive competition for science research. There are many, many competitions in science research. Everyone is a little bit different. Every one of them has, each one of them, see my English is going, is having slightly different criteria for judging. So everything is covered from presentation skills to writing a paper skills. And so with her paper, she became a semi-finalist out of 300 semi-finalists in the country, more than 4,000 applicants. She also was 5th place at the Junior Science Humanities Symposium, 4th place at the Westchester Science and Engineering Fair, WESF, and she really did a great paper. That was the second year that she was competing. She competed as well as a junior. You're going to compete next year. Watch this. Dylan Gambardella, who is here, had a tremendous run as well. At WESF, he became second place in the engineering category, which allowed him to qualify for iSweep. So iSweep is a mouthful. It's International Sustainable World Engineering, Energy, Environmental Olympiads for the projects, the Peace Project Olympiads, right? And I see I'm losing it totally at this point. There was, how many countries, 65? 66 countries competing from all over the world. Absolutely amazing. 553 students, 6 students, right? From all over the world. And out of this, Dylan got the gold medal in the environmental category.
I always said that, spoiler alert.
So he also got first place at the Westchester Rockland Junior Science and Humanities Science Fair, JSHS, and qualified for the state competition for the Congress. I'm always forgetting that one. Tri-County was?
JSHS was the...
Yeah, right. Upstate JSHS, right. So anyway, and I'm sorry. Okay. And the Science Congress, where he out of all the contestants, got third place. So he will show you absolutely what iSweep was. That was taking place in Houston, Texas this year. And it was a fantastic, fantastic experience from what I heard. And I'm just going to let you speak about it. And I apologize for being so tired, but it's been a long day.
Make this a little higher than Doc. All right, so hello again. Thank you all for having me tonight. I'd like to give another hand for Dr. Rogers for all of the hard work she puts in. Really, none of this is possible without her hard work and determination, and as Jazz will figure out more and more next year, she's really the whole mold that keeps us together. So thank you again, Doc. So I'm going to make this a little informal. Normally when I hear the word science research and I get my board out, I really get into that whole, I got my my thing to go through my title, and so I'm going to stick with the nice and easy iSweep. And as Dr. Rogers said before, it's International Sustainable World Engineering, Environment, and Energy Project Olympiad. So we'll get into more of the details. There's a nice logo. So there were 66 countries represented, 44 states, 385 projects, and 556 students in total. Now, all of these students had to qualify by either one of two ways. The first was you can submit a paper. That's something similar to what Dr. Rogers spoke about, how Audrey qualified for Intel. However, the route I chose was the regional fair. And so WESF, which is our local Westchester Fair, you had to place in the top 3 overall across all the eligible categories. And I placed second in my category of environmental science, and I also placed second overall, making me eligible for this trip. Now, in total from this fair, from Westchester and Rockland and the surrounding counties, there were 7 of us represented from Yorktown High School, Somers, and I was the sole representative from Hen Hud. So there were 6 days. The first day was the arrival and check-in to Houston, Texas. We took a bunch of flights and got to know everybody in a more intimate setting. And the second day was where we set up our projects and had the opening ceremonies where each state and country represented had a flag and a representative go down into the big stage. It was very nice to hear all the languages and all the different countries and to trade pins and whatnot with all the other students. Exactly, like the Olympic Games. Picture that when you see everybody running down with their flag and, the light shows and the music and something like that. And it was really cool just to be a part of that. Even though I didn't get to run on the stage, it was nice just being able to sit in the audience for that. So third day, we had the public viewing session. This is when anybody from the surrounding areas, the Harmony Public Schools, which is the big private school, or actually public school down there, privately funded school in Houston, Texas, they had all their kids, they bussed them over, and so I had kids from kindergarten up to 12th grade coming over, and I'd give them the breakdown of my project, as well as any parents that had accompanied their kids to the competition, and so that was a very nice opportunity as well to practice, in a sense, for the judging the next day. And also in the afternoon on that third day, we had a trip to the Museum of Natural Sciences. So for the fourth day, it was the judging, 8-hour judging, and we finished off with a nice social event to kind of relax at the end. And the fifth day, right before the award ceremony, we had a trip to NASA, which is very cool to see all the rockets and whatnot and speak to the personnel there. And finally, the sixth day, we returned home. So I'm going to take you through a nice picture slideshow, and I'll talk you through it with some nice pictures to give you a visual representation of what went down. So day one. So welcome to iSweep. We had a banner that hopefully will get hung up somewhere. I brought one home. Maybe it's in here too, and we'll get to hang it up here. So you can see beautiful Houston, right? It looks beautiful, not so much in that picture, but take my word for it, we had a great time walking around. And here's the whole crew. We had some teachers represented. This is us walking around the city and whatnot right before we checked into the hotel, and we're going around to get a nice tour. And still eating dinner, as you can see. And we actually got to stop by the Toyota Center, and thankfully there was a Houston Rockets playoff game going on. The Houston Rockets were playing against the Portland Trail Blazers, and we actually had the opportunity to first just tour the site, and then actually later we got to go to the game, which was very cool, and I got to experience my first playoff basketball game in Houston, go figure, who would have guessed. Being from New York, you think it would be the Knicks, but I very much enjoyed that with the whole group, and we got to see the Houston home team take home the victory. You can see here I got the shoe with the Rockets blow up they had going on here. Always bringing my love for basketball with me, even to Houston. And here, of course, we got on national television, which is very cool. We got to see that later. Someone recorded it for us. And we got to enjoy the game at night. So now to the second day. Welcome to iSweep again. This is the project setup. So I'm holding the tube, which is where I transported my poster. And here's the crew again. And it was a very strenuous time putting it. As you can see, I brought one of my slightly smaller posters over behind me, and this poster, it's called a monster board, and so these boards are ridiculously big. We had these all individual stands, as you can see. Each contestant had their own booth, and it really helped us to get our own area and get comfortable with the environment there. Here's my board. What's that?
How'd you get all that on the plane?
We had a little canister that we it was about 5 feet tall, and we rolled everything up and put it in the canister and just put that in the overhead compartment. And actually, I forgot mine on the first plane, but I ran back and got it. Thankfully, the stewardess took it from me. That could have been, sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dr. Rogers. Could have been, now that it's all safe. I was reassured that there was a FedEx site on site in Houston. If I did lose my poster, we could reprint, but would have cost a pretty penny. And at night, actually, the second night, we got to go to a place called House of Blues. And while they didn't have any big performances that night, in the weeks before, they've had some big names come through. I know Gavin DeGraw was there 2 days before we were there, so some big-time artists perform, and we got to have a nice dinner there. So now for the opening ceremonies. Again, picture the Olympic Games, and now picture it with a science twist. As you can see, everybody on stage representing waving their flags, and what was really cool was to see all the various attires that the kids dressed in to represent their home countries. And here I am wearing a suit, but the person next to me, I'd be wearing a cultural dress from, actually the booth next to me was from Kazakhstan, and across me was from Hong Kong, and next to them was from Netherlands. And so just these opportunities to interact with students from around the world was something that was unforgettable. Now into the third day. So right before, again, the public viewing session. And here I'm talking to 2 students who are actually competing, and that was nice about it. We got to walk around and view the other presentations and to see what other kids had done, which is really one of the coolest parts about this entire program, Science Research Program. You get so involved with your one topic, but you forget that kids around you are doing some of these amazing things that you read in the newspaper and you hear on the news, and these things that are unparalleled, and it's crazy to think about that these are my peers, and I'm happy to be a part of them. And we got to stop by the Museum of Natural Sciences and see a 3D movie, hence the cool glasses there.
You said this was your crew. How was that put together? Is that just the Westchester group, or did?
These were the Westchester. We had Yorktown, Somers, Ossining, Hen Hud, and one from Sleepy Hollow. These are all the kids. We did everything together. So I stayed in the hotel with them. All of us were at our rooms next door, and we flew together, and we ate together and everything. We were the unit, the Westchester, Rockland, Dutchess, Poughkeepsie, all the surrounding areas. That, unfortunately, these were the only 7 school students that could go, but that's who we stayed with. Of course, we did interact with everybody else, but the majority of our things were done as a group. Some more nice glasses there. And now this is an individual that I'll talk to for a few minutes, Jack Indraka. Some of you may have heard that name before. He's the kid who invented the pancreatic cancer test strip. You may have read about that a few years ago, that this 15-year-old student was inventing a way to diagnose pancreatic cancer for, I think it's 2 cents per strip, and a method that's 200 times more effective than current pancreatic cancer testing. And what was really cool is that I got to interact with him and communicate with him. And right now, we're still friends. We communicate via text and social media. And this is a kid who is pretty much world famous. He's on the cover of Time magazine. And yet, standing there like a regular individual competing with me as my equal, which is a very cool thing in terms of networking and formulating that bond between scientists. And he's from Maryland. And we met up in Houston, which is very cool.
Where's he going to school?
Yes. He's a junior now, but he told me he has offers to attend basically every school in the nation that you could think of. So, what's that?
Is he going to venture fund you?
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. And as Dr. Rogers mentioned, the business venture, maybe I can do his finances and his future test strips. I can sell them to the hospitals, and we can have a little partnership there. So something to think about for the future. Now to the 4th day, the actual competition. So, of course, we have to thank our sponsors always, because this trip, again, was fully funded by, in particular, Entergy, but also Regeneron and Corda and all these different companies you can see, and I'll highlight them again at the end. But they paid for everything from airfare to the hotel expenses and food bills and everything they cover themselves. So, big shout out to them. With the board again. Now, judging was 8 hours, and we did have a half-hour break in between, but that did get a little exhaustive. So there's a little chair down there that was used definitely during the end of the day. And I was judged a total of 12 times, and those 12 sessions were about 12 minutes each. And so it does add up. And by the end, I think the judges gave you a little break because they knew that everybody's mouths were starting to dry and the hunger headaches were coming on, but couldn't complain too much. And at the night, it was a social event. Now, this individual, his name is Jared, and he's from Long Island, so New York guys stay together. And it turns out that he is going to Duke University, where I'll be attending next year. So go figure that a friend that I did not know at the time was going to Duke, that I just knew as Jared. And we connected actually via the Facebook group for Duke. We mutual friends, and we saw we both in the group. And so it was very cool that I now have at least one connection going forward in the future. And these 2 individuals are from Brazil. They were competing also in the environmental sciences category. And these 2 were from California and Texas, respectively. All right, now NASA. NASA was one of the highlights of the trip. We got to actually tour the laboratories, and here you can see a workforce that is currently, this engineering is a live floor, and it was a Sunday, so nobody was in the offices that day, but if I can go. This robot is what they're preparing to use for future space landings and to simulate human life. This robot is fully functional in that it can move 360 degrees, can walk forward, bend down, communicate back to headquarters in Houston. So that's what we're going to send out to Mars and hopefully find some cool stuff over there. We got to see a full-size rocket that has now been decommissioned. That's an actual space photo. No, just kidding. The landing, the actual moon landing. And here it was May 4th, so a little saying, "May the 4th be with you." And there's my friend Chewbacca, Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan. And they held me up. I guess I had too many questions to ask in NASA, so they... All right, so I'll move back forward. And now the actual competition, the results. So this is my face, as you can see, a little bit excited after hearing my name called. And there was an announcer who was doing an amazing job pronouncing all of these names from Asia and everywhere across the globe. And he gets to my category, and he says, Hudson, oh, no, wait a minute, Hendrick Hudson, the first mess up he had the entire day. And it comes with Hendrick Hudson. But at least I knew I won, and that was very exciting. As you can see, running down with my American flag. Here is one of the deans of West Point. Thank you. Deans of West Point, more New York friends following me. And on stage, you can see all the winners behind me of the various bronze, silver, and gold medals. Here's everybody with their flags again. And this is another winner who, actually, of all 7 of us, won at least a bronze, silver, or gold medal for the first time in the history of WESF, the competition. So it was one of the most successful years for us as a whole, which made it all the more enjoyable that we could share this with everybody. Here are medals. And as, I'm sorry.
I was just going to sort of put some pressure on Jazz.
He has high hopes, and I'm sure he'll be there. Without a doubt. He'll have to get up from his seat, though, next year.
No.
And he'll have to get up here and talk to you guys. But as my mom mentioned in the back, there was a live feed on the website of the happenings in Houston, which is very cool that Dr. Rogers and my mom could follow everything that was happening in real time.
I was getting real-time tweet updates from Dr. Rogers on the 2nd. It was
right.
amazing.
He's on his way.
Yeah.
Again with the medal. And here's a celebration dinner. We went out to a nice place in the city of Houston. And my nice cowboy hat, you always have to match the attire of the location. And one more picture of the Toyota Center from an aerial view, which our hotel was right next to, which made it nice and convenient. And day 6, we're born and plane home. And so that's everything. I'd like to especially thank the 4 adult sponsors that went with us, the science research directors at Yorktown, Pelham, Somers, and Sleepy Hollow, Mr. Blueglass, Mr. Baltakis, Mr. Horace, and Miss Longo. They were very caring, and Mr. Blueglass actually helped printing my poster, and that was a big thing, as those posters, as you all know, those printing and ink is not cheap at all by any means, so he took care of all that for me, and we were very thankful for his assistance. And again, the sponsors, especially Entergy, as they all played one role or another in financing my trip and my time in Houston, Texas. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
But I'd like to just say one quick thing to Dylan. It's scary to think that this could possibly be our last school district function together. It's been an amazing road. You're a role model. You're a friend. You're everything a person could want to be. And it's so clear to everyone who brushes by your path that that you're going huge places. And we're all here for the ride and ready to see where it takes you. So just a thank from the science research team, from Hendrick Hudson, just from everyone for being such an amazing member of the community and such a good person. And such
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have fun at
Jazz, the pressure is on you. I am expecting that paper before September comes. Yeah. Okay.
There goes your summer.
No, it's been long gone since freshman year. Don't worry.
Yes, I want to thank everybody here for supporting science research program. It's a very, very important program in the school, and I wish we just push it and continue working with it, have more students coming in it, have maybe another bond with a launch for our program that was part of the the classrooms that was cut off when the bond was not passed.
Right.
I want to stress very, very strongly that this is a team effort, that we don't function like a regular class. We function more like a sports team to a certain extent, and that each student on that team not only learn those skills I mentioned before, but they also learn how to collaborate with each other and how to work together. So if you come by my classroom on a regular day, you will not see me teaching. You will see a group of students sitting together, maybe laughing, sometimes doing work, but exchanging ideas, sharing their progress, sharing their research. And we have a very, very, very good students coming up. We have Jazz, we have Cleo Lieberman, we have Chen Milsetic. I don't want to forget anybody because then people will be upset. Jonathan Chung, Isabella Brizzi, we have Matt Kenny, Jordan Hudak, All of these students are going to be working very soon on project. Some of them are working this summer on projects. Some of them will be competing as juniors. Some others will be competing as seniors in September. So keep your eyes open. Some good stuff is coming in the fall and in the spring of next year. Thank you.
Dylan, thank you for taking your evening and showing us this. This was wonderful, and it was nice to see. It inspires Jazz here, too.
I think Jazz has been inspired
He's already
already.
inspired. I think that's fast. But thank you very much, and for setting the example for the other kids behind you, because, again, it gives them something to work towards. You know, if they see that, you know, it's actually doable, and how cool is this? You know, it puts a face on it, and that's wonderful. And as always, thank you so much, Dr. Rogers.
Yay, Dr. Rogers.
Without your commitment and dedication, you know, this truly wouldn't happen. And I tell you personally, I know how much it means. My son still does this research that you started him with, I don't know, 7 years ago. So thank you.
My daughter too. She just did a science research. She went to McGill for 2 years. She continued a project with a McGill professor working on the same topic, expanded. She's sort of a major science, biology and computer science, expanded her project into biometrics. And guess where she is this summer? She's back to her science research lab, doing the same research she was doing when we were working together in high school at Albert Einstein, and moving to University of Edinburgh in the fall. And I'm sure she will find somebody to continue there, the same project. So it's something that you start, and it's the seed of something, but it really just grows with the years.
It is. It's a gift. It's a passion. And thank you for bringing that to our children. So thank you. I believe that brings us to, since we did our board comments and new business earlier, unless there's more comments in business.
I think there's
Oh,
some
I'm sorry.
comments.
There's, yes, please.
Are we going to do the report?
Yes? No, that's just informational.
That's okay.
Hi, everybody. I am Susan Frietta. I live at 16 Dickinson Road. I came here tonight because I am a realtor. And I didn't know that all this was happening tonight. And I'm really happy that I came when Dylan was here, because I would like to know if I could promote our high school through Houlihan Lawrence's website. We've been trying and trying and trying to fill houses, and we're not getting anywhere. You know, what happened here tonight was an unfortunate thing. I will have to say one thing about the teachers that were here, because I didn't know this was all happening. My boys did not have Mr. Enriquez, but I have to tell you, I'm sorry. I didn't, whatever, okay. I don't know all the rules, okay? I'm me, so that's it. The point is that I'm here to help the school. I want to sell homes here. I want to be able to bring people here. And the negative press that's out there about our school is horrendous. I can't sell houses. We're dropping prices, and people are still not coming to live in this community. And, you know, I know there's a lot of realtors, and we've discussed this, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to go to a board meeting one night and ask them, is there a way? I mean, hearing what Dylan did, and hearing what Dr. Rogers does, and hearing what everybody else does, and it's not only about our fields. I mean, you know, big deal that we don't have the field. A lot of other schools don't, but that does play a major role in having fields. It does play a major role in having science labs that are back. I mean, I went to Bronx High School Science. I had much more of a lab than there is here for these children to have. And when people hear this outside, they don't want to come. And, you know, I'll go to Croton. I mean, Ossining is selling faster than Hen High. And we have a lot of homes on the market, and we just can't move them. And, you know, I wanted to know if I could write something and promote our school using all these wonderful things that, like, Dylan does and all the other children do. And I don't know if I could do that. And I figured if I come here and ask you guys for help.
Yes.
And I'm sorry. I didn't know that I forgot. I'm not into all this. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I am who I am. I mentioned your name. I'm sorry. Whatever.
So,
I'll be in trouble now. This will be, and I will tell you that I go to a lot of cocktail parties, and they don't talk about all this, but they do talk about the selling of the houses, and it's hard.
Yeah,
I got to tell you guys, I struggle. I mean, it's sad because I could sell in Croton. They come on the market a day. They're overbidding on houses. You come here, you can't give them away. I mean, I have houses on Diamond Avenue. I have houses all over. We're trying. I mean, but I spoke to Houlihan and they said you need to get permission from you people before we could do anything.
And before we release any student information, we'd have to get the parental consent too.
Well, I don't think I wouldn't put names in. I'm not talking about putting names. I'm talking about our wonderful programs that we have. Talking about, I know that they go, oh, well, where do these kids go to school? Here's an example.
Yeah, we're working on that, actually, with Beth Gruber through
Right.
the Education
Right,
Foundation.
and
We're
Beth
pulling
and I-
all of that information together for you.
And I had spoken to Beth about this, but I just felt like I needed to come here tonight and talk to you guys because I really care about where I live and I want to sell houses and I want our school to look great and I'm sick and tired of hearing people talk open hood. I want to promote it,
Thank you.
We do.
So that's why I'm here tonight.
Annie's, the press releases that are on our front page,
But they're not getting out there, and you know why?
Well, but
You know what they read? They read the negative stuff. Because if you put in Hen Hut, they read all the negative press. There's no positive. There's no positive stuff. And then when you drive people around to sell a house, unfortunately, they go, well, where's your fields? And I do show them, and it's not about. I mean, it is about fields. There's a lot of people out there who are into sports, and they do want. And I'm not saying that we need turf, but we need something more than that. Fields, come on. Can we get a land? I'm willing to promote a landscaper here. I'm not going to start with the landscaping and all that. But the point.
Just start.
We want to sell houses. We have 98 houses on the market. We have 4 in contract, 6 months, 1 sold.
thank you, Susan, and thank you for.
Well, I know. Will you ever respond to me? Or I know I heard
Yeah,
you say that you
work
don't
with me.
respond.
Yeah.
So I will get somebody will tell me because
Yes.
I know you're not allowed to talk after tonight.
No, I mean.
Yeah, it's a matter of the content. We have to be very careful what content regarding specific students that we can publish, but we can.
But it's not about the student.
Right.
Could we talk about our programs
Yes.
and how wonderful we
No,
have?
and as he indicated, that they are working with HHCEF and such, and Beth Gruber are.
Right, so
yes.
Putting something together.
And then we'll be able to.
We'll
Yeah.
give Beth your number and let her know that.
Yeah,
you're-
I just looked at an email, a group of us were communicating on email at 1:15 this afternoon, starting to put that data together for this. So
Okay.
you just weren't on the email, but we are working on it, and we're going to work with you
Thank
and the
you.
gentleman's name here through Houlihan Lawrence.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
That's why she was.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So,
wants to address something?
anybody else? Can I get a motion to close? There's just the only thing, no, that's informational, is it not?
Oh, all right, I didn't know if we were
It's
gonna
whatever you
review
want.
it.
It's just unprepared if you want.
Which
something,
one?
But it's what, the Dignity
DASA.
Act, you've read it, it's just a
But
rehash.
I think it's a. All right, since it's here and you've done it,
Yeah.
you're ready, we might as well,
let's talk
we'd love
about
to
it.
hear from you.
Okay, could you pop up the PowerPoint for the Dignity Act? I think it's no, I think I saw it with all the other ones. Under, it's under
there.
information at the very bottom.
11.1. And it's presentation, the very last one. Yes. And you'll just have to scroll.
Thanks, everybody. So the last meeting, Charles asked about the Dignity Act. And I the next morning asked all the administrators what they, to just give me a summary of what they had been doing. So you have all the summaries in detail, but what I did for the community was create several bullets from each school. So is there a clicker or do I ask you? Okay, so could you? The Dignity for All Students Act is a federal law that went into effect in 2012. New York law, it's not federal. I gave them the feds credit. Thank you. You'll see similarities in all the schools. We take this very seriously. The administrators review the act each summer in our cabinet, and they bring them back for the opening days of school with the teachers, with the children, and of course with parents. Essentially, what the Dignity Act does is it takes the anti-bullying and anti-harassment work a step further to include all the protected groups of people who over time have been teased or made fun of or harassed in some way. So we work with children in age-appropriate ways to understand what it means to follow this act. So you can see that at BV, they're making sure that each incident is taken seriously, and when children are the offenders, when they've done something wrong, and kids do things wrong, we know that, but it's our job to help them learn a better way. There's reflection involved, always. So that came from BV. The next one, please, is Frank G. Lindsay. And they have a lot of programs going on addressing this kind of work. Of course, PBIS is the Positive Behavior Intervention and Support Program in each one of our schools, each one of our elementary schools. The reward system in the middle school doesn't really work. Kids don't, it's not for middle schoolers. And in the high school, you know, they do the right thing because they do the right thing. They have a peer leadership program working with high school peer leaders. They've worked with peer mediation, which are 4th and 5th graders working with kids to solve their, to talk through their differences. They have a buddy program, and they have a topic each year. This year it was empathy. The DARE program, of course, is sponsored by the town for us, for our 5th graders. And they felt that their after-school programs, which are not as academic in nature, but are fun programs for kids, certainly address social skills. Furnace Woods, again, their PBIS program is WISER, and Furnace Woods students are well-mannered, independent, safe, encouraging, and respectful. And all over the school you see WISER posters. What does WISER mean in the cafeteria? What does WISER look like in the gym, on the playground, in classrooms? So that it's integrated into everything they do. And they also, they learn this vocabulary, and they in their classes, teachers working with kids, what it is to be bullied, what it is to be a bully, what it is to target, what it is to be targeted, and finally, the difference between bystanders and allies. We teach our kids to be allies, to stand up for each other. Middle school is an age, this has to be a topic, and it's worked on a lot. The administrators have presentations for each student. They go into each classroom in the beginning of the school year, and then they review this with the faculty to keep it consistent. It's included in the Meet the Teacher night. They've had internet safety presentations. They get outside consultants to work with kids and work with families on internet safety. We're right now working on a social media not a policy, but regulations or guidelines for how to deal with social media in schools. And we asked Jazz to help us with this, because we need a kid on the committee who actually knows what he's talking about with this social media stuff. An advisory program, which we'd love to see throughout the middle school, but working with 6th graders at this point. This is one adult in the building who's working with 8 to 10 kids who really knows them and makes sure, it keeps track of them every day. Very important for middle schoolers.
There's an interesting point to that in the report, that every kid has an adult that they know they can go to and talk to if they need to.
Yeah, the advisory is a big part of middle school philosophy, having every child should have an advisor. When the middle school movement started, it was as important as teaming and co-curricular work. School counselors are busy working on working with kids as things happen, and proactively as well. The psychologist as well. Our middle school psychologist is Project Adventure trained and certified, and he takes kids outside onto the ropes course as part of the in a therapeutic way. My Body, My Rules workshops. And what they're doing with the My Body, My Rules workshops is talking to kids about the real possibilities of bad stuff happening in a dating relationship, that you know how to be safe and take care of yourselves. And again, the high school peer leaders, big group, helpful group, working with middle schoolers as well, and our substance abuse awareness. So huge emphasis on work related to the Dignity Act and also to anti-bullying, anti-harassment, just taking care of yourself. And finally, in the high school, again, starting each year with grade level assemblies and then following up those grade level assemblies with administrative visits to each English class. Every high school student takes English, so that's a way to get it to reach each student during the very beginning of the school year to discuss the components of the code of conduct, which are there to educate and to protect kids from, wrong behavior. So again, the Hope Store presentation of Love Shouldn't Hurt goes into more detail for dating situations. And we're certainly reading a lot in college campuses about sexual aggression on the campuses. So our kids need to know how to protect themselves.
Does that tie back to the 8th grade program?
Yeah. And of course, every high schooler in New York State takes health, squeezes it into their schedule somehow. I'm talking to Jazz specifically, to take health. And the same work goes into our work with our coaches, because coaches see kids in a different kind of way. They see them outside of the school day and, late into the day and at games, and people can say very wrong things on the field. We know that. So this work goes with the preseason training for all 3 seasons with every coach. As of January of this year, all new educators in New York State and any coaches who are not certified teachers are required to take a 6-hour DASA training. And Mr. Baker has the executive director coming to work in the fall season on this DASA training. This director is a certified instructor in the 6-hour DASA program. So bringing it to all of our coaches for the fall sports season. So it's in our schools and certainly on our fields, taking this very seriously, as we should. In each school, the principal is the DASA coordinator, and I oversee it.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Now, well, I just wanted to ask a quick. It's directed mostly at students, it seems like. How do we educate adults that they also can't?
Well, all of these trainings start with the adults, start with us, with the administrators before, during the summer, and then work with the administrators at that opening meeting on superintendent's conference days, reminding people of the law. One would think that adults could understand what the law means. It's pretty clear. And but just reminding people that there are protected classes, and the protected classes aren't just the obvious ones. It's not just that you're talking, that would be derogatory comments towards race or gender or sexual orientation, but, your appearance and your weight come into it, too.
Do the kids, as they do in the middle school, have someone they can go to in the high school?
They don't have a formal advisory program beyond 6th grade in our middle school, and I think...
Like staff, if a child's feeling he's being bullied by staff or something like that, or being talked to inappropriately, who can they go to?
They're always encouraged to start with their counselors. Every child has a counselor who's with them for, through their high school experience, and so they know them well. I know as a parent, even back when, I knew if there's anything going on, I always called the counselor, starting in middle school, because teachers you can't reach during the day. They're teaching, but the counselors are in their offices, and they know they follow the kids for the 3 years or the 4 years, middle school or high school. So that's really a great place to start, and these people are trained in counseling kids and helping adults. It'd be great if we could have an advisory program all the way through, but it takes a lot of adults and a lot of...
What would it take to start it? I mean,
well, you have
is
to...
it a financial consideration? Is it a training consideration? Is it a person?
I'm sure there are contractual issues. It's another another assignment. In the middle school, the 6th graders, people have volunteered, and they're working with kids, keeping an eye on them. I used to ask them, when I was a principal, I used to ask in May that every teacher put a name on an index card and just slip it in your pocket of someone you want to keep an eye on for the next year. someone who you know in a special way that someone else, that no one will know that child as well quickly. You have to just think about these things. And Charles, I think all the time about the stress, PTSD. I see it with our little ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. And they really did a good job, all the administrators responding very quickly. Thanks.
Do you have any comments or?
Good evening. I guess I'm the last man standing for evening. My name is Michael Lustig, 68 Meadow Road, Montrose. I appreciate all that you guys do, and this is a big topic of concern for myself as I will be approaching probably the board at some time in the future in reference to the DASA and possible violations of the DASA Act. The DASA Act was put into legislation in New York in 2010. It was actually effective 2012. And it kind of concerns me that we are just now.
We're not just now.
Well,
This is just a report of what we've been doing.
well, I was told by certain directors within our district that as of this past year was the first time that they have been DASA trained. Well, DASA trained where they're giving a slip of paper on the school's policy on DASA. They were never actually trained as DASA, and now I believe we're doing it once a year. We're going to be sitting down and going over a class. And as we speak, and I understand that it's for dignity of all students, the conditions of race and gender and sexuality, it's not just that. DASA is not just set up for someone that is in those groups. It's set up for the general population of the school. So it's not something that we just reach out to just certain groups. It's for everyone, and it includes everyone. It's not just children bullying children. It's also to the point of educators. And who do we use to follow through to see? I know you spoke about counselors, and a high school student can go to a counselor to speak about issues that he may feel that he's being bullied or harassed or something like that. Well, I met my son's counselor for the first time this year to speak about college, and they were, we do those meetings. And my son's counselor didn't even know who he was. Sat down, and it was the first time my son's counselor had ever seen him, and he's a junior in the school, and he's a very involved student. And the counselor was like, "Oh, you're Ryan Lustig." So I kind of find that hard to believe that they're on their students and follow them through the schools, because it's not happening. So my concern is that who is doing the teaching for DASA? Are we doing it for ourselves? Is one educator doing it and certifying our own educators, or are we bringing someone in? I know that for instance, the Rye City schools, my wife is an employee there, they're trained twice a year by an outside firm that comes in, state-regulated outside firm that comes in to teach them about DASA. I don't know where we are. It just appears to me that as of 2014, January of 2014, now we've decided to jump on board when the DASA, because it is now in legislation, when this is something that has been going on for, God, decades, generations. And it's just, I'm just concerned that, we're doing the right thing, and that we're actually keeping an eye on it and not just posting up on our little board and handing out a form that says, "Here, read this. This is our Dignity Act, and you're ready and set to go." So,
We started with the attorneys back in years ago.
well, years ago, I mean, like I said, 2012, it became in effect, so that's 2
Policy
years.
passed in 2012.
Well, it was passed in 2010, it became in effect in 2012.
No, our policy, we will.
Well, state policy mandated it in 2010, it was passed, 2012, it became in effect.
Okay.
So it's just, I think it's a great beginning for as long as we're going to follow through with it.
And as I said, this is a report of what's been happening. It's not that in 2014 we just jumped on.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming, Mike.
I'd just like to speak to one quick thing you said, an interesting point he brought up. I remember back in middle school, we used to have these, at the time, really obnoxious meetings with our guidance counselor. We'd get called out of a class, and for some kids it was like, yeah, out of class, and others were like, well, I'm learning that day. But we get to sit down for 5-10 minutes and just talk to them about what's been going on, since the previous meeting. And although, for some, sometimes it didn't really come to fruition, didn't really bring up any important things, there was definitely a connection that was made there. I saw my guidance counselor, Miss Boland, for the first time at my sister's award ceremony at middle school, and there was an immediate spark of connection back. Like, oh yeah, Miss Boland. So I don't quite feel the same thing in high school. I know that time constraints are a lot crazier. The scheduling is completely different. It's a completely different structure. And but even if it was every 2 or 3 months, we just got to sit down. Since starting with freshman year, just got to sit down and talk to our guidance counselor, because now it's coming to the point where she has to write a letter of recommendation for me from college. And aside from pulling up my whatever's on the computer screen, what's on Infinite Campus. I'm very fortunate that I kind of went out of the way and made an effort to talk to her since the beginning. But for a lot of kids like Ryan, there's definitely that problem. There's that disconnect. So if we could just start something every few months, just give a little update, a little brush up. It might be hard to schedule, but it might be worth it in the long run.
It's absolutely something to consider, especially the guidance counselor. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay.
Sorry for being late. Work tonight. It was a dull meeting, right?
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. Your timing was impeccable. I noticed.
He did that on purpose.
I was watching it at home. It was live.
That's when you came over, okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, this weekend actually is a wonderful weekend. It's graduation. This Sunday will be a purchase. It's a great time of year. The kids are done with their tests and their classes and all the good stuff, and now they get to summer. And what kid doesn't love summer? So thank you very much. Our next meeting will be July 9th, 2 weeks from today. We'll be here or be at the district office?
I will.
Actually,
I think
they're usually at the
Dr. Swergoff has asked that we continue meeting here because there's going to be
Training.
changes made.
Okay, so then the meeting will be here. July 9th, 2 weeks from today, it will be here. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Can I see the exact date?